I'm Raechel from Green Salon Collective, and I'm joined with Raechel Kelly. Raechel is from the independent change agency, the Liminality, and we're going to be talking about sustainable finance. Now, this is a term that I've heard a lot. I don't quite get it because you don't even use money anymore, it's all digital.
Yeah.
Like what is sustainable finance?
Yeah, I think, well, that's a really good point. And often people's reaction is like, well, yeah, it's just money, isn't it? It's just sitting in the bank or whatever. So how does that impact the world? I think it's really key for sort of people to try and get their head around the fact that when you are banking, whether it's like investments or pension or the money that's sitting in your bank account, it's not locked away in a vault somewhere. It's not just a pot sitting in a bank vault. Banks are actually using that money to kind of invest in other businesses, to obviously try and make you a bit of money in return, and alongside make themselves a bit of money. And obviously it can really vary from bank to bank, the types of projects that they're funding with that cash. So that's where the kind of ethical element comes into it, that your bank might be financing things that actually you're working pretty hard either in your professional life or your private life to kind of change, and you really want your money to be working as hard as you are on positive impact, so whether that's environmental or social change. So yeah, and the first place I think that people can start is by looking into their bank or their pension or investments or whatever it might be, and actually seeing where it is, and really like looking under the bonnet of those sort of financial products. And yeah, just asking the question where it's invested, even that is a really powerful act, because it kind of signals to those big financial institutions that people care about what their money is financing. And there's some great campaigns as well at the moment, like Make My Money Matter, and they've done some incredible research that shows that switching your finances to more sustainable options is 21 times more effective than going vegetarian, stopping flying.
Really?
And what was the other one? It was switching your energy provider as well. So
really?
Like all of those things combined, switching your finances is more impactful by 21 times, which is huge.
And this is because these banks are essentially investing in projects like fracking.
Yeah, fossil fuels, or it could be, arms companies.
Wow.
Or tobacco companies. Yeah, just stuff that, people generally wouldn't want to think that their money was backing. And yeah, there are sustainable options out there. I definitely recommend checking out Make My Money Matter. Also, Good With Money, which is a fantastic personal finance website that looks at sustainable options, whether that's for pensions, investments, or banking. And yeah, looking at the different various providers that are out there, and actually it can really range from the more modern online digital banks that aren't doing that sort of dodgy capital lending stuff in the background. But also it can be like, building societies and credit unions that are actually models that are kind of like 100 years old, but people are kind of flocking back to as a way to kind of support like local charitable projects and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely worth kind of getting into your finances. I know it's not the most exciting area, and when I mention pensions, everybody falls asleep, but it is really worth kind of having a dig and seeing that your money can be working for good.
And if you was to move your business to one of these types of bank accounts, does that come with a burden of extra costs? So
some sustainable banking organisations do charge a monthly fee, especially for business banking. And that can vary obviously between providers. So it's definitely worth looking at what bank or what product is going to work for you. And we know that that's going to be different for everybody. And this isn't financial advice. If you do have complex arrangements, you probably need to seek independent financial advice. But having a look at some of those comparison sites and seeing what might work for you, there probably will be a provider out there that can kind of fit your circumstances. And it's really important to say as well, I think a lot of people still have a notion with pensions or investments that they're going to be sacrificing returns if they choose ethical options. It's really not the case. Study after study has shown that you don't need to sacrifice returns to invest with your principles.
We found that with our bank account in the UK for Green Salon Collective, because we use Starling, and there was no difference for us in the costs for being with them. And we'll list because obviously there's people from different countries watching this, but we'll list the ones that we've found and that we recommend.
Awesome, great, thanks.
So I wanted to ask you about cryptocurrencies because we actually accept Bitcoin and a few others on the Green Salon Collective website, and someone pointed out to us that uses an incredible amount of energy. Is there anything that you can say?
Yeah. So some of the cryptocurrencies are based on proof of work, and that is incredibly energy intensive process. So you need to be running server farms basically, which are hugely energy hungry. And because of the way that model works, people who are running those farms will look for the areas where energy is the cheapest. And often that would be because it's fossil fuels, it's the dirtiest form of energy. And therefore there's a huge carbon footprint involved in that Bitcoin mining.
That's what I've heard, because I've heard that Bitcoin specifically generates or goes through more energy than some countries.
Yes, globally, if you add it all up globally, and there are, what's really frustrating for me is that it's the proof of work that it's based on. It doesn't have to be based on that. It could be based on other things. I know Ethereum is one of the kind of newer ones that is looking to try and be a bit more sustainable. But yeah, as a whole, it's not my area of expertise, but there are definitely pitfalls involved, and you need to kind of look very carefully before you get into it.
But if the world was running on renewable energies anyway, then that wouldn't necessarily be a major issue.
Yeah, chicken and egg. Yeah. So if we can transition to fully renewable clean technology tomorrow, then yeah, absolutely, we would probably hit that button. But we're not quite there yet.
So to learn more about sustainable finance and ethical banking, check out the links and articles below.